Hey everybody, we're gonna let everybody trickle in for a few minutes, and Facebook giving me a little trouble with that to get to, with trying to make them schedule and things like that. But you can always go live instantly. I've done it to my phone so many times that if you get better equipment, then they try to shut that down. But we might have Gunner hitting on us. Letting everybody trickle in. All right. What's up, everybody? I hope you can hear me all right. I'm trying to get where I can see everything. I've got me got some new equipment so I can do some live remotes, but if you noticed, I've been gone for a little while, but I had to move, and yeah, they've changed the setup completely. Uh, there is a button on there. Let's see if Gunner's on. I just talked to him. And Odin having to share some of the names over and get let some people know we're back online. But we're dropped with a blessing, the good with the bad. The light comes up to meet the darkness, and vice versa. And last show I did an interview with Brad Olson, and so a lot of his listeners came over. But now we have new members, just so many, it's gone crazy. And I hope Odin just came in. I'm trying to see him. Gonna have to use my phone, it looks like, to be able to interact back and forth. Let's see. The Facebook thing's not letting me see anything. Looks like Odin just popped in. So we've got some production power, but after interviewing people like Ken Johnson and Brad Olson, thank you guys, and uh, people like Klaus Donna, and we've got an audience and a voice. And now, wherever you want to, now that we have millions that are listening and we are global, uh, share to your group. We have so many administrators, authors. There's Gunner right there. And I'm trying to see how. I think you have to. There's a button that says add to your video. I know it does on my phone. Let me see. Refresh my page here. I'm giving everybody a few minutes to trickle in. What's up, Michael Tarr? He's a new member, and I got Marin, and we got Leonard O'Neill. Um, he's got a great show. Kathleen Fitzgerald, she always does her trucking show, which is always awesome information. And she's even broadcast from the fires from me because I'm down here in the toxic soup in Louisiana or nearby. Won't say where, but there's also, but she's reported from the fires. I'll have to throw up her poster up there. Uh, I see Gunner on there. I'm trying to see how I can bring him in here, and I'll have to actually join my. Yeah, there's a way to connect on here. On the screen, usually it says click to share image or to join conversation. There's usually a little box on mobile, but right now it's kind of hard because I'm on my computer, and when I look at myself on there, it's not going to let me join my own conversation. Um, Let me turn off my microphone, letting everybody trickle in because it was kind of a surprise little thing. We're just letting everybody know that it's still, we've our last few guests, which I actually each one of the guests asked me to do a show, except for Klaus, because I have to ask him a good time ahead of time. He's the busiest man alive. He's on the other side of the planet, and even at 5 in the morning on the other side of the planet, or 6 in the morning, I still gotta, schedule that well ahead of time. But we've got Tertium Oculus from Washington, and well, Carla, Augusta, and Janet, and Karen, and everybody who's out in Hawaii and in New Mexico, and Taft, Derek Baker, he's on. He's up in the UK. Marcus Levski, he's up there by Gunner, and Elizabeth Jones, Nano Ash, and Ann Melancourt. I might be speaking at an engagement in Colorado in August, hoping that the one will last in or that the Mars conference will still happen. Hey, there's Jimmy Gibson, and everybody just, if you want to do a future show, just share it to a group that you frequent or that you're the administrator of. And because now we've gone from hundreds to thousands to millions of listeners, and just out of our group on the Independent Research Society, it's all authors, people like Gary Legier, Martian Revelation. He's got his own show, and uh, and we all kind of support each other. But when you see like trucking with, hey, there's JoJo Melton, there's some friends from my hometown, I'm used to seeing them on there. But yeah, people have tried to keep me off the air and do anything they can for me talking, you know. But we've got this system, and people here don't even understand why that it's not right to put DARPA, a defense building, right next door to Bossier Parish Community College. Why that's not a big deal. And the same people that sell you the Monsanto weed killer Frankencorn, that gives you cancer, are the same people. Bayer, Monsanto Bayer, that's like black and white, but they're both owned by the Royal Windsor family, which are actually, when you take away the facade of it, it's the Saxon von Gottbergs or whatever. So there was kind of like one side in World War II. But, you can get things like this, Nemol extract from India, and use that instead of, I've even got my own food growing out here now. So there won't be any of the shenanigans happening that have been lately that have tried to keep me off the air at the point where I had just gone from a small network show to, even when I produced my own, just it went to millions. Brad disappeared for 4 months, and he had the number one show. So when he came back, his listeners came on, and since then we're in every country. I mean, we've got like Teresa. She's always on with us, and Ann Melcore. She's asked me about the Colorado thing, and I'm trying to get that handled. We've got Joseph and from Calcutta, India, and uh, I mean people from Saudi Arabia today. I mean this is just today. Marcus Levski, which I know you got to use the translator thing, so it takes you a minute, but that's all right. That there's now we're starting to get just as many people that speak English that don't in the group, and but hey, it has helped me learn a few other languages, or I'm doing my best on a few of them. But comes in handy when you cross borders. Huh. Yeah, it says there's no button. Usually there's a button that says on the bottom of the screen it just says go live with the person online, but it doesn't look like it's gonna let Gunner on, so we'll just have to do uh, uh, we'll just have to do a show later with the split screen. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can bring him in, uh, but I'll have to get Odin to help me do that, and that's one of my that's the producer, the eye in the sky, but if you've got a group and you've got something to say down the road, just share to that group because we've already reached to millions of people already, and this will too. We have live, and then it goes to the producers, and the intro gets added, the outro gets added, the intro music, and then Omar from Watchers Talk made some awesome graphics. The little wormhole thing that says "Conversations with Jeffrey Boy" looks like the beginning of Star Wars. What's up, Jimmy? And but anywhere you want to. Oh, now we have literally a. It was talked about the last 2 or 3 days on Fox News that people are turning to social media and to the internet. We want them to find us and not find special interest groups. Like one example, you get these people on climate change and they're stuck on it, but there's people who don't know the facts who really need to look at the data because like I'm one of them people. I don't care aliens or no aliens. I do not have a preference. Whatever the answer is, manufactured materials or quarried materials, do not have a preference. I just want the answer. That's a good thing about chemistry. You take a chemical analysis of a block and it tells you that it's 10% sodium carbonate, 30% water, and 60% sand. That tells you that it was made, it's a geopolymer concrete, and unless they drug uh, 2.78 million 50-ton stones hundreds of miles to cross the biggest river on the planet, then I would say that they were made in place. And right next to it, just I've got it on the wall. You can go look and see the Sphinx is limestone carved in place, and there it sits with probably 100,000 years worth of weathering on it. And right next door, you have the right behind it, the Great Pyramids on the plateau, and they have no weathering, and they're not even the same color. If they had the weathering that the Sphinx had, they would look like a mound. And the newer a pyramid is, the more it looks like a mud pile. Like them saying Imhotep was the pyramid building pharaoh. Well, that's not even true. For one, Scotland, the way it got its name was by Princess Scotia, who was an Egyptian princess, but we don't know what they called themselves. They weren't called Egyptians. That's why 60, and it's just fact. There's no opinion. I don't care whether it actually was the reverse of what I thought would happen, but the truth is the truth. 65% in Scotland and 70 in England, in the UK. 65 to 70% of the people there share genetic traits with the most ancient, they're called pre-dynastic Egyptian mummies. 65 to 70% of people in England and Scotland and Ireland share genetic traits. In today's Egypt, I call Zahi Hawass dynastic age Egypt, between 1 to 5%, they say, from the samples, from the number of samples taken. You have to take that into account. But if you keep on taking samples and you keep on getting that 5% and keep getting that 5%, it tells you that there were two different, completely different ages. But people have stopped us from getting the truth out there. And I've gone and I've assembled experts from each different group, and actually they came and got me. The way I even started even doing this was somebody wanted to ask someone who manufactures materials, makes stones, makes metals, and it works with these types of materials. And could they have had the technology for, because everyone before, now you hear it all over the place. So they had ancient metallurgy, which my uh, article in Advanced Archaeology Review and Ancient Mysteries International for Bruce Cunningham was called Ancient Megalithic Metallurgy. And now you see people bypass it real quick. People like that you'll see on certain alien shows that are very popular, that they'll go, oh yeah, look at the slide and go, oh yeah, and the ancients, they had metallurgy, and they'll skip right over it. They don't have any information, because there may be 20 million chemists in China, but there's only a couple hundred trained chemical metallurgists in the world. But right now, I'm not so much worried about that, because now I've learned that we're kind of having to do like they do. Until a piece of research is finished, we've got to keep our own secrets. And then on the other side, we're doing the opposite of the other side. We will, except for they're keeping their secrets with their technology, we've got to keep our secrets, because if an independent does not find it, if a funded person finds it, you'll never hear about it. Like Norsen Tepe, most people have never heard of it. It's right next to Göbekli Tepe. I find it on some topography I was doing, and looking at gravitic topography in Turkey near Göbekli Tepe, and I found Norsen Tepe, which is like a 3-story above ground apartment and 3 stories below ground. And when they found it in 1963, they just freaking reburied it. Why? Because when they found Göbekli Tepe, it instantly made the whole educational system go from, we have a 6,000 year or 6,000 BC history. That's how old this is, which that nullifies everything they say about these 50,000-year-old mummies. But the further we look back and the deeper I look in LIDAR, the more technology I'm seeing. And I don't think it's by chance that as our technology gets better, we understand what we're finding more, or we understand what these megaliths are. And I think as our technology grows, we'll understand it better. It's just a different base technology. And now we literally can harness the power of the earth turning. That's a big motor. You know how much power it takes for the earth to turn? And to be able to harness that to power that, I mean, there's your electricity power the entire earth. And you don't need nuclear weapons, which is what they're doing. Like at Fukushima, they're using a 1930s 1940s technology to boil water, using nuclear material to boil water, and 1830s and 1840s technology. But if we had an EMP or a solar flare, we'd have 250 to 400 Fukushimas at one time, and that is what you call an extinction level event. And these are just some of the things that we've got to get out there. They don't want people to hear. But just a couple of years ago, I was on, in April of 2017. The name of the show, I think, was Species Organism 46B on Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. And the Russians dug for 10 years to get down to Lake Vostok. And when they got down there, the deepest sample they took showed that it could have been 12,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas, 12,000 BC all the way back to 34 million years ago, where people like Linda Howe say that timeline is right there. But I've been talking to experts in those areas and only deal in facts, and I never desire any answer before you go into it. That I learned that in seventh grade. Don't ever go into any scientific test wanting or looking for an answer, because you'll test for that answer and you'll label everything else an OOPA. And if you've looked up Klaus Donna, that's you'll find his name always tagged to that out of place artifact. There's no such thing as an out of place artifact, only out of place history. And we're the ones here to rewrite it. And we've got people trying to stop us and people trying to say the world's going to end in 5 years because of carbon. Well, when they've drilled through what I know for a fact is that they do not know the facts of the science, 12,366 feet of ice, when the Russians broke through to Lake Vostok, they found that that air between 10 to 34 million years hasn't seen the surface, was 10 to 20 times higher in carbon dioxide. 20 times higher. But it was also 20 times higher in oxygen. So that was just a media platform made for a politician that didn't have anything to say. And he didn't invent the internet either. I don't like politics. I call it political sleight of hand. They play little games like that. But what good is it going to do you if we have somebody got the president's got white rain hairspray, woo, the world's going to end, in 7 years. And that doesn't do any good when you have things like this. You can see the spots on my forehead. That's because, I put in the title, I think I had to erase it. They've gone from fluoride to chloride. I literally got out of the town I was in too, not only because the police definitely will not protect me there in any way, but they're flushing chlorine and ammonia through the system to get rid of a brain-eating amoeba. And the only thing people remember from the news ad or from the news report was Aaron Brockovich said something about Bossier City, and that's the only fact they remember. And that shows you the things that people value and what people notice. And nobody understands. They see the word I see General Dynamics written on the front of a building, right next to a building. It says Bossier Parish Community College, and in the same parking lot, U.S. Cyber Command. And I'm like, they are slamming particles and shooting out gamma waves and doing muon, messing with muon radiation, which is, well, cosmic rays is muon particle, but they're working with particle physics that goes through everything. It goes through walls, but why put that right next to a school in the same parking lot when anyone from the Port City area, Shreveport Bossier, knows that from Houghton on, you get like a space and nothing but land, and then Minden, which is tiny, and then a space, and then Monroe, and then you've got Mississippi, the whole north. But they have to put the defense program building, the defense research program right next door in the same parking lot as Bossier Parish Community College. And there's a reason it's put there, and it's right across the street from Barksdale Air Force Base. But there kept being these things like a brain-eating amoeba is in the Sligo pump water station. It's not safe to drink, and it's not safe to bathe in. But if you have to take a shower, if you do see a worm, but also, like my seventh grade science teacher said, an amoeba, by definition, can never be a worm, because by definition, it is a single-celled organism. My doctor laughed at that, and I've told people that 100 times around here, and I've got Dr. Kennebrew laughed at it, and a couple of doctors laughed at it, and I'm like, The people who are listening, that shows you who, the ones who laugh at it are the ones who get it, or they go look it up and figure out why that's funny. I'm one of those people who I have to go look up everything. But I do like Paula Violet. It's called system research. What people don't do, and this is how everything is done. Everybody's looking through a keyhole, but they don't understand on the other side of that door where there's a war going on, poison, industry, everything else. They've got a little diorama set up in front of the keyhole for us to look through, and everybody's sitting there looking at the world. And even if you go to CNN.com on here, you're still getting the same story you are off TV. That is not what they mean by going to social media. Go to places like us where I can say, I do not have an opinion in the matter. Here is the data I directly got, so you can look at the data and analyze it for yourself. And here's the telescope I looked through. You can take a look at it yourself. Nowadays, you can look at through a microscope at the same thing a person's using overseas, and now they're working on the Da Vinci machine, like you saw, like from Doctor Strange. If you watch the Avengers stuff, doing surgeries from the other side of the planet, and we have these technologies, and it's just we're still boiling water with radioactive material, putting defense places next door to schools, and getting out of the shower with a sunburn. What do you think that did to our insides? And some of the people who know a little bit more of the inside of it, I'm not going to give it any more power than it has, but let's just say some people tried to make me be quiet. And that's the areas that I hit on. And I want to continue in my archaeological research, and I want to go over there with Klaus, Donna, and go retrieve some artifacts and do some archaeology. And they want me to go to Angkor Wat and some of these places and look at the material hands on and tell whether it's manufactured or whether it's quarried stone, because that's how you can kind of apply the truth to everything else. That some people say 80-20 in the UFO group, they try to use the disinformation thing, but people are forgetting, just like our world, what do you see? What's the find a Civil War house, an old Civil War house? The only thing left is the chimney. We've all gone and kicked one of those old chimneys over from some house that's burned down or something. Only the stone from the old world is left. What's missing? The wood, the gypsum, the sheetrock. You pour water on this stuff, it turns into sand. And they have to have paper on each side of it to glue it together, which is exactly how they were manufacturing the materials before. They were either making stones like they did with the pyramid, or they were melting them. Now you take a stone and you melt it down. You're taking the metals out of it, and you're making building material. So now you have your megalith, and you have metals for your armies or for whoever. But uh, the truth is, places like Isla Royale, the Carthage Navy, and they had the Navy, and the Romans didn't have a Navy, and they got together, and the season finale, they showed them pulling on Oak Island, pulling up that post. Inside the post, 3 Roman crossbow bolts. And the History Channel even messed with and wouldn't let them say that that was real, or the ceremonial sword. It's like, could you even imagine 100 years ago, some kid, some dad giving his kid a sword and let him play with it on the front of a ship and drop it over into the water, and it's a 4,000-year-old Carthaginian ceremonial sword. It was a special sword. It wasn't even made for fighting. Those were just normal looking swords. But some of these things they found, like axes, actually they would put their maps on the side of the blades. But we're not told any of these things in history. And it says on our creed, right when you come in the Research Society, history was written by the victors of wars, but it will be rewritten by us, the insurgents. And I go out and I do tests and all the people that were coming together from all around the world. That's why I said that I want to talk to each person who has some information or who has a piece of research or wants to get information out there. And like Kathleen's group, the Columbia Skywatch group up in Oregon, opening up those channels, get to where those people hear the information. And so when you speak on the Independent Research Society, which has become a network because the 2,700 to 3,000 people is kind of deceiving because most of those people are an administrator of their own group or an author, or like Gary Legier, a host of their own show, or Omar I Am One, which was the host of Watchers, and then Leonard O'Neill of Orion Rising, and Kathleen. I just put, when I put up her post, which looks so cool because she did a remote from me from the fire, and she's got on a pink gas mask, and I put the Independent Research Society next to it, and I was like, that's the coolest poster ever. That's like a hero poster. She's got camo on, driving down the road with her camera mounted, and it's one of the coolest snapshots ever. It's like superhero kind of thing. But that's what all of us are. But it really is us versus them, and the programming, this whole system has, look at Monsanto Bayer. They hold the patent. The royal family of England holds the patent for the word heroin, for the name heroin. They also own all the opiates that go into all of the epidemic of opioids in the United States and in the world right now. So those were the fields that were not burned in Afghanistan. And I think that's, you've got Canadian, Australian, British guards guarding fields going, nope, this is a Windsor field, a Bayer field, Bayer Monsanto. But then, it's like you get cancer from the Monsanto foods. They sell you the radiation that hurts you and the chemo, and then they sell you the opiates that cause another problem, and then they sell you the drugs that try to cure you of that, and then they sell the weed killer that causes the cancer. It's a big nasty circle. And now our schools have disarmed a generation, and they've made them to, it's just, they are you supposed to believe what you hear on TV? Because if so, then you've got to believe it. But if not, then why would you believe the news? Because they've only lied about everything. And if you flip between two channels, they're saying opposite things. And I always just say, if a data source has been fouled or tampered with before, you can't ever use it again. Google Earth cannot be used in scientific research. You can use it to survey an area, but then you've got to go on some real equipment that people haven't edited, because for years I was in the Lunar Anomaly Research Society, then Mars Anomaly Research Society, the group I spoke for September in Silver City, New Mexico, which was awesome, in the Gila National Forest. And what's up, Fernando Vosa and Karen, Brett, Carlo, and everybody who doesn't want me to say their name, Patricia, she doesn't mind. Carla, she likes to stay out of the limelight. But yeah, found a good family up there, Lewis, and then I was up there with Janet and Dr. Sasha Lesson, and yeah, I always knew I was in the right place. I looked for Dr. Sasha, the best dressed guy, the one guy in the suit in the room, and he's the tallest guy in the room. I'm like, I'm in the right place. So he always gave me somebody to look for. But yeah, great hearts and minds, and we've got a network of networks. So just this feed is just to share or to open it up. So if you want to be interviewed, I use this as your soapbox to stand on to talk about what you want to talk about, and it will reach everyone, but will also reach your specific group. So everybody just share the link somewhere, and we are society, and we're the voice, and we're not at war with each other. half the people who joined today are from, like Gunnar, who is my friend that I know through Klaus Donna, and he's in Austria. And then his friends joined, and then I've got friends from Saudi Arabia. I got Joseph uh, from Kathmandu, from India, and then we got Ann Melkor, and she was from Duke University, and she does all kind of stuff. You have to look her up. Ann Melchor, but I'm still the kind of the kid of archaeology. I feel like I have a whole bunch of parents, and they're all kind of they want to know what I know because it's a specific thing, but I've been studying everything from chemistry to languages to actually going to the places and translating things for myself because otherwise you have to take other people's words for it. And even the Bible was edited, and you have to take everyone's word for something unless you go look for yourself. But we're society and we're not trying to kill each other. There's no like Dr. Valery Uvarov. I look up to him. He's building pyramids over in Russia, and the, there's no not between any nation. And have we ever had one conflict or argument or of any type on anything? And if you watch TV, you would think that Russia hates the United States hates Russia, but the truth is, behind closed doors, they don't even do that. They're just giving that mob mentality. It's just a power game. It's just a Game of Thrones, and it's just it's just a game to them. And behind the scenes, we know they're working with each other on space stuff. Even our impact probe was from India, and we've made that. Well, people have given credit to that game, but you can't say that NASA's the same thing with TV. You can't say that NASA stuff is BS, but then also take their other data. But people don't realize all of our tax dollars for all these funded universities. You can go look at the telescopes yourself, and there's so few people who do it, they don't even have a login and password. So if you got something you want to get out there to talk to everybody, hey, that's what we're here for. I'll just letting you guys know that I'm still here and I will be here and I won't be shut down. And now we've switched over to where we're multicasting across different networks. And even after this conversation, the bells and the whistles will be added and the information at the end. And uh, then we'll put it on YouTube, so it'll be downloadable. You can hear it later on, but later on we'll have subject matters on, and I'm gonna get back to the guests. But had to let everybody I know that I'm still here, and the network's still here, and it's yours. I I just typed in the button, open the door a couple of years ago, and since then the first thing I did was listen to Coast AM, listen to Ground Zero, listen to experts on different things, listen to Nassim Haramein, listen to different people lecture, studying morphic genetic resonance with Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, and then who are the people under him, and I started inviting those people, and Joseph Patrick Farrell. We've got George Knapp, who's the one who broke the Area 51 story, Jeremy Locker Corbell, who just did stuff with the Tic Tac. I mean, these are all members of the society, and this is the direction that it's going. And we want people to find us when they come online. We don't want them to find these clickbait, no data, just saying stuff, because people can say climate change and things all they want to, and the truth is there's never been a time we haven't been in climate change. Evolving is one of the things we do. Adjusting is one of the things we do. Things, you get cold, you put something warm on, and that's just the basis of our reality, and that we have seasons and things change with seasons, but we don't need politicians to protect us. We need them. White rain hairspray is nothing compared to weaponized weather. You need to stop doing that. And now pulsing things at the sun, that stuff that's just insane. And I don't think any politician should ever have, unless they're educated in it, have the right to approve or not approve funding for a certain project, because some of them are absolutely insane. Like the artificial intelligence stuff, it has gone wild. Now everybody's got one, and there's not any way to shut it down. And now it just takes one of them going wrong. And all the money is being poured into that. And especially over the last 10 years, things got real dark. And it really it came to light with Donald Rumsfeld coming in front of Congress and saying, I can't believe you would actually drag me in front of the cameras and ask me where 2/3 of the money for the military that I asked for, and then you say, here is $10 billion for the military for the war, and I can't find where $2 out of $3 went, and you already know this, and you're going to drag me on TV and ask me this. And what you need to notice is that was on September 10th, 2001. The next day was September 11th. And so when somebody who meant something came out and spoke the truth, the very next day was the biggest day in our country's history, next to Pearl Harbor, or our generation's Pearl Harbor is what they said we needed, and it happened that week. And that's just little facts you need to pay attention to. When somebody says something on September 10th and September 11th, you have the only two skyscrapers that have ever hit the ground. You need to start paying attention, because that was an airplane that did that. And it's just, you can, and I just look at facts like I start studying structurally. I start studying architecture. I go look at architecture, and I know a bit about firefighting. Most of my family generations have been firefighters, but there have been buildings taller than the World Trade Center that are not shaped like a block, built with huge amounts of rebar. Those things were so thick, they were like, I mean, just the beams were as big as your house, thick of rebar, and they crashed to the ground. But in Dubai, you got these buildings that are like a sailboat, and they're as big as the World Trade Center, and they burned from the top floor to the bottom floor and kept burning until there wasn't anything left but the frame. And they weren't built half as strong as the World Trade Center, and they never hit the ground. And that's not telling you how it was done. That's just telling you facts of what is known and what isn't. But as someone who's melted metal, I would tell you that you need something at least 4,000 degrees to melt those materials, and you would need certain convection things. But we'll get into those on other shows. But whatever you want to talk about, whatever your research is, I've been finding things under megaliths and finding out that these megaliths, just like today, if you go to Louisiana State University, Shreveport, like I went to here, that building isn't one block of rock. It looks like it, but it's not. It has like particle board or something behind there, and then they use some type of spray on stuff, and they use stucco over the top of that. It's not one piece of carved out rock. Even when ISIS went and bashed all these statues and all these shrines and things in the Middle East, this last few years, we found out half of them are hollow or have been replaced or were manufactured materials. And every day, the only thing I needed to make a fire go from 400 degrees to 4,000 is called coking up the furnace, the AOD furnace, an argon oxygen decarburizer that I built myself. And the only thing that I needed to make the stone they're all the steel, each meltdown, it's just scrap. You have parts of trains, parts of wheels, everything, but to make it all melt down really quick, you have a 400, 600-degree fire. All I was doing was throwing moly oxide, titanium, graphite, different things in different mixtures of rocks. So all you need is rocks and fire to have a 4,000-degree fire. And that's how a lot of these things were built. And you see this complex jewelry and things like that. They couldn't pound those out of something they broke out of a rock. And it's just common sense that we've got to add back to it. But that's why I want some of you that are specialists in it or whatever your area is in. Now you've got a platform, and because of the last people we've talked to, uh, we've got a global stage and maybe beyond that. But remember, there's only one side, and is the victors of wars wrote history. History shouldn't be written. It should be told. It should be found. It should be discovered. But we haven't even discovered planet Earth. But we are the ones who will rewrite history. And we see AJ, Joseph, Jimmy, hey, Sarah, Nick Burgess. What's up, everybody? Everybody, share the stream over so we have it open to everywhere else. Vidal Sassoon. All right, Jimmy. All right, love you guys. We got a stage to speak on. If you want to have an interview, just private message me. I'm easy to get in touch with. Love you guys.